Artificial intelligence is changing the workplace faster than most leaders can even keep up. But the biggest threat isn't losing your job. It's losing that sense of purpose, confidence, and value that you have. As AI reshapes industries, women leaders are asking new questions. Will my expertise still matter? How do I lead teams through uncertainty? What human skills become even more valuable, not less, in this AI driven world? So, today's episode, we welcome U.S. Air Force combat veteran and executive advisor Kari Zeller to the show. Kari, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're excited to have you, and I can't wait to hear, a lot of the lessons from leading in life or death situations, environments. You've been helping Fortune 100 companies navigate disruption and researching one of the biggest leadership challenges, which is remaining deeply human while we're embracing extraordinary complexity and technology changes. Everything is happening so fast.
Right.
Yes. So, if you've ever wondered how to future-proof your leadership, build trust during uncertainty, and ensure AI enhances, not replaces human potential, this conversation is one you don't want to miss. And I will just add, do share this conversation because there's so much talk about AI and this disruption. So, Kari, thank you. First of all, being a veteran, you've experienced a lot of situations, and I'm sure come with a calm that most of us wish we had when we're in that boardroom or we're in those leadership meetings, navigating, just the amount of acceleration that's happening. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. And I many times wish I brought the calm you're talking about as well. So I don't know that I'm any different than anybody else.
Well, we'll talk about that though, because I think that, that's an important aspect when, even when I was reading your bio, thinking about, being in a life and death situation, and often as leaders, we're selling products or we're selling software, we often behave in that fight or flight and as if we are in life and death situations. So I'll be excited for us to jump into the headlines today and talk about AI and what it's doing to our workforces.
Yeah, I think it's a super, super important topic. And I love how you started the episode about staying human. And I think that's I have an upcoming book, right? And the book is about, it's a leadership book and it's leading in the age of AI, but it's not really an AI book. It's about our humans, right? So I love that you started in that way. Yeah.
Well, and let's just go there. We'll start with that piece because everybody's terrified AI is going to replace their jobs, but yet we all are human. So, this disruption that's happening goes much deeper than what's on the surface. And, there's a lot of uncertainty, anxiety amongst, the employers are trying to find ways to, how do I cut? Employees are finding ways, how do I stay relevant? So let's talk about, what is a leadership crisis and what we're facing that no one's actually really talking about.
Yeah. It's not entirely different than the leadership crises I often see. And that is that many of us as leaders, we're not really paying attention to the place that work provides, right? So work provides a place for identity. It provides a place for contribution. It provides a place to invent and imagine my future, right? It provides a place of belonging. Even if we don't like our work, it
So
gives
true.
us something to bounce off of. Well, I'm not a that, I'm a this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that job, but I want to do this job. Or I really want to contribute in this way and I'm not able to. Whatever it is, it kind of work gives us our what's called placedness. And so when AI is coming on, it's not so much a tool rollout challenge. This is an identity transition challenge, right? Because work is something that holds so much of our meaning and our place in life. And when that's disrupted, we get displaced, we get disoriented. And so our work as leaders right now is to reinvent, is to what I've called place ourselves again into a future in which we can see, here's how I'm going to contribute. Here's who I get to be in that future. right? Here's how I belong to that future. And it's actually the same leadership challenge that I have been at work on for over 2 decades as any organization faces big change, right? These are the same questions of identity, of future, of belonging, of contribution. So that's the real leadership challenge, I would say, today.
I love that. And I love how you're framing it. And identity is very real. And we see this, right? We see this all the time when someone is reorged or someone gets sick, or even when somebody goes out on maternity leave or they have to take parental leave or
Right.
caregiving, because it questions, who am I then if I'm.
Exactly, exactly. And, I learned this a long time ago, actually, from William and Susan Bridges' work around the psychological transition of change. And when I started studying it in the beginning, it was during retirement. It was when I became a mother. It was when I left the service. Who am I now? And it's not just the change, it's the human psychological transition that goes with the change. And I've never met a client, meaning an executive leader, who was taught this.
Yeah,
Never.
100%.
Some of them might have some intuition. I find women actually have more of an intuition around that.
Yes, agreed.
They become a mother, they've wrestled with their identity in and out of work. But this is something almost none of us have been taught in any of our MBAs or leadership schools, or I certainly didn't learn that in the service academy either, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think we're often conditioned to be that, whatever that is, we are conditioned to be that. And so our identity becomes so locked in with that. I mean, I know for myself, I had a health crisis back in 2007. And when I had to leave my job that I loved so much and the team that I loved so much, my biggest struggle was not the health issue as much as it was, what's my identity now? Because I'd been this, and that's how people recognize me.
Yeah.
And it's a very real phenomenon, I would say, with how much we attach ourselves to that identity.
That's the whole thing, Vicki. That's the whole thing, is who am I now? Right. And not just the role, but how have I proven my worth for myself or others? I'm the one with the answer. I'm the one with the expertise. I'm the one that can get it done faster. I'm the one who will produce more. Well, guess what? That is what AI is doing now.
Yes.
So I've now got to create an identity for myself, right? Which is that key skill. Like, I've got to create my identity that isn't competing with those things that I used to win at, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so why is that so important for women leaders to pay attention to now, not 5 years, 6 years, 2 years from now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like being on this podcast because you have me think about women leaders. I don't often think about women leaders. I think about leaders, right? So I'm going to say, well, it's important for everybody. But let me just look for a second. I think women in general, I hate kind of doing these generalities, but I do think we show up, especially in the corporate world, already fighting to find our place in the room, whether it's a boardroom or an executive room. I think we fight, and in certain industries, we really fight to find our place, right? But everything is changing. So we do ask, do I belong? Am I valuable? Am I behind? This is kind of our opportunity, because what I see that the unique human skills are skills that women find more naturally on a whole, right? Not all women, not all men, but more naturally on a whole are these very unique human skills. The deep listening, the creating belonging, the creating community, the strategic thinking, like women, their ability to see across a horizon, laterally and into the future. Like women see into the future, right?
Sure. Yes.
I think it's our time in that way. The other thing I would say is, if I were to look less selfishly from a woman's point of view, I would say the world is asking for it. The title of my book is Replaced, Answering the Call of Leadership in the Age of AI. And so there is a call of leadership. 20 years ago, I got introduced to the Hunger Project, and their main strategy in the world for ending abject poverty was to empower the women. Why did they want to empower the women? Because if they financed a woman, if they empowered a woman, she would take care of the whole community. And so I would say our world needs women leaders now. They don't need us to wait for 5 years to figure out, okay, now that this whole environment is designed again by somebody other than me, I'm going to try to find my place in it again. No, it's our time. It's our opportunity to say, this is what counts now. And let's design it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I so agree with you. And I will share with you something I've really been thinking about a lot lately, because I see so many women exiting corporate environments. And that scares me for just what you just said. Like, no, this is now the time we need to be leading more than ever and being at that table, helping to, design and change the structures that have been in place to accommodate more. Because you're right, even when you're talking about the Hunger Project, like, it's designed so that the whole communities are taken care of. And we need more of that versus it being, self-serving or even short-term thinking. And that was a conversation I had with somebody the other day. Just in conversation, we were talking, and I said, it's fascinating to me because we're so quick to do groupthink and just go along with whatever, oh yeah, that sounds good, instead of looking at the long term, where women typically will. What's that dominoes effect going to be? How does that impact all of these different people? And with AI coming in, that enables us to have a little more time to even be able to do that.
Yeah, you just in the way that you reframed it, the way that I define leadership is the co-creation. It's a co-creation, right, of a future that wasn't going to happen on its own, right? It's not, let me just keep doing the future that is going to happen, but a co-creation of future that wasn't going to happen on its own. And that future addresses the fundamental cares of those involved, right? The relevant parties. And so I think another thing as we design our future is that women are inherently good at, again, not to say that all women are or men aren't,
100%.
our brains are actually different when it comes to communication, just what we pay attention to, is that we do really look, what does this person in our community need? Like, we tend to look across the stakeholder groups.
Yes.
And we tend to take into consideration what's most important to them and their situation as we invent that future. And so I do think it is critical for our world right now that we have women leaders.
Yeah, no, I 150% agree. Like, that is probably one of the things that keeps me up the most, is thinking about, so many leaving and moving into different ways, which is also equally as good, because there's so many great advances that are happening. And you were talking about innovation earlier, with a lot of the things that AI replaces, it enables more innovation. Like, I see these advances in healthcare and diagnosis that people were waiting years to try to get, which, AI is helping to triage that into, days, weeks, instead of months, years plus.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've led combat zones and you've advised Fortune 100 companies, executives during massive organizational change. So what have some of those experiences taught you about the people leading through fear and uncertainty? What do you see happening?
Yeah. And I guess it's a thing that women do, right? Is they discount their experience, but I'm going to do it. But not so much to do that from myself, but more to honor the difference in combat, right? So I would say I was mostly in a supportive role. I was in combat zones. I was under mortar attack. Those things really taught me a lot about leading under fear and uncertainty, for sure. And it's just important for me as a fellow veteran that I also acknowledge that not all veteran experiences are the same, right? So just a disclaimer I like to put out there. Couple things for myself. When I was first in a combat environment, which I don't care who you are or where you are in that environment, it's a shock.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I would say that was the first time I was truly afraid for my life. And yet it was my job to lead. I didn't at that time pull on any textbooks about leadership. At the time, I had a master's degree in leadership. I had taken many courses, and it wasn't even a normal thing to do at that time. But rather, what I really pulled on was development I had done in my own way of being. It was a way of being, right? So you can't have courage without fear. right? You can't have bravery without fear. And so it wasn't so much a knowing what to do, but who am I going to be in this moment? Right? What's my presence going to be in this moment? And that's really what I drew on when I was absolutely fearful. I think that's one thing. Another thing that I would say more in the fortune or the corporate environment is that where fear comes from is anticipate. It's a prediction and anticipation that something that fundamentally matters, that's so important to me, is going to be lost. Sadness is that it was lost. Something really important to me was lost, a relationship, an opportunity, a home, right? But fear is to include my life, could be a reputation, it could be a way of living. Fear is I anticipate the loss of a fundamental care of mine, right? So one of the things you're a coach, I'm a coach. So one of the things that in working with people is to turn fear into care.
Yeah.
So if we can see what is it that I'm actually afraid of losing? What's my fundamental care? Is it a relationship? Is it a reputation? Is it an opportunity? Is it a contribution? Right? Is it a being known? Is it a feeling I have? What is it that I'm actually afraid of losing here? Is it a sense of security, a sense of belonging? And if we can turn that care, that's a fundamental care, into a design principle for the future, I now can design to ensure that care is fulfilled. So when I look at my own divorce, for example, I was afraid that I wouldn't be enough for my daughter, right? I wasn't giving her enough time. I was running a company. I had her half time. I went from, having two parents at home to being my, single parent. And when I really looked at, well, what do I really care about? I care that my daughter feels supported. She knows she's loved and that she becomes a responsible citizen. And I could design a future around that care. There's a million solutions. So I think the same thing when we're designing futures right now with AI as is, what do I really care about? I care about my own creativity. I care about my own contribution. I care about being somebody that I respect, right? I care that my daughter is able to think for herself and that she has the experience of finding out what she's able to create in the world. I can design a future for that. And actually, I can use AI and other technology to support that.
Yeah.
So turning fear into care, that would be, what I've really learned there.
Love that. Love that. And I think that's such a great reframe with regards to, we all fear things, right? You just don't want it to become the paralysis that keeps you from taking that step forward. And what I heard you say there, Kari, was focus on the things that you can impact, that you can control, because some things you're not going to be able to control.
Yeah. And I think just like really getting clear, sometimes we get fear or anxiousness and we don't even know why.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like anxiety too is I'm resisting not knowing what the future.
Yeah.
Right. So can I move, can I shift, like anxiety and curiosity, the difference between the two is accepting the uncertainty.
Yes.
So if I say, yes, it is uncertain. Now let me get curious. How will the things that I care about the most get fulfilled or be expressed in the future? I start to move into an innovative mindset,
right,
versus a protective mindset. Right. Yeah.
Well, and that's an important distinction. Even having that awareness of what are you doing psychologically? Where are you being in this moment with this situation? And it's funny you say that because my daughter started an internship this morning and she got off the train and she said, oh my gosh, the train dropped me in a further away location. And she said, I'm so nauseous. And I said, okay, what's wrong? She goes, my anxiety is off the charts right now. And I said, okay, let's just take a breath and think about the excitement of the day. You're starting a new chapter. You've got all of this new information is going to be coming at you, and that being curious about what this company does and how they do it. And it was funny because she did self-regulate then into, yeah, you know what? I actually got here early and I have a chance to like really look at, and she was talking about the view of the city. And so what you were describing there, I think, becomes so important of distinguishing what
Mhm.
is actually playing out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love that. Love that. So your upcoming book is called Replaced, which is a very powerful title. So what does being replaced actually mean?
It's good. So being replaced is different than replacing oneself.
Mhm.
So I think it's obviously a play on the word replaced. We're
Of
afraid of
course.
being replaced. And what are we really talking about is being displaced. The root of reinvention, right, is replaced. Anything is again, right? It's again. In fact, I went to Chile and got a wine called and it was about again. I loved it.
Love it. Yes.
So replaced is finding my place again when the world that gave me an identity starts to change. And so it is the fundamental skill that I think leaders need as we move forward, which is reinvention. And how amazing are women at that, by the way? Reinventing themselves as they go through the different eras of life, right? So replaced is finding my place again, finding a place in the future that I've designed. And I think that's what we need to do. It's not passive. Being replaced or displaced is passive. Replacing oneself, one team, one organization is very active.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, Carrie. And I think sometimes, there's lots of ways to describe that. Some people will say, oh, I get the 7-year itch, or I get, just something is niggling at me that I feel like something's ready to just emerge and just come out of me. And so leaning into that versus resisting that is so important. And like, I have this girlfriend, she will be 82 in November, and she always says, she goes, okay, so here was act 1, here was act 2, but I'm ready for act 3. So now what am I going to do? And she's 82 years old. Like, that's contagious. And if we can flip that mindset from, oh gosh, here we go again, to, oh gosh,
There we go
what,
again.
yeah, here we go again, what can be in front of us? Like, that's such a powerful distinction.
I think to your 82-year-old friend, right? And I call them eras. She calls
Mhm.
them acts. I love that. We call them chapters, right? And in fact, I go through the era work in my book, like give that away.
I love it. Okay.
I think what she knows is that humans create,
Yes.
right? We actually are creating moment by moment by moment, where we think we're describing the world, but we're creating the world, right? I am tired is a declaration, and it could be a description. It's not like I'm not, right? But I'm also creating it as I'm speaking. So what she's discovered through her lifetime must be that, humans have the ability to create, which is something that, AI doesn't actually. It can it can do probabilistic sentences. It can do read different combinations, but it can't create a future for oneself. It can't create a reality or an experience. It doesn't experience, right? So I love that you brought in your girlfriend looking at act 3.
Yeah, no, it inspires me all the time, because it is being so present with where we are, and thinking about, what do I want to leave? Like, what's my legacy? Like, and I want to enjoy every day as it comes and not resist it so much. Yes, removing things that are toxic or things that, are not supportive, but it is more of that possibility mindset and looking at what's next. What's next? She does adventures every day in nature. And some of the inspiration that comes from that is like, it just fills your heart. Like, it's just so grounded in the essence of today, instead of worrying about, like, so far out, or thinking mortality, or thinking, whatever, goes to people's minds. But I just love the fact that she continues to connect, not with just people, but with the earth, with, everything around her.
Do you think that AI and the other technologies, by the way, it's not just AI, it's like a lot of converging technologies, can give each of us that opportunity before we're 82?
I think that can support us in lots of good ways to provide more opportunity for us to
Yeah.
actually do that.
We design it, right? If we
Yes.
design it that way, I
Yes.
think it's, I think that's the optimist way, right? I go from optimism to pessimism 8 times a day. I
Of
end up
course.
in a neutral
Likewise.
spot. But yeah, I think that if we can design it well, and if we can grab hold, my mother's just like your friend.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple years younger, but not much. She's just such a phenomenal businesswoman who has always reinvented herself. But can we design our lives in such a way that AI doesn't just make it possible for us to do more and more work, but allows us time to be more and more human?
Yes. That's the part that I think is so incredible about AI. But
Hmm.
yet I hear so many people that resist it.
Well,
You
we haven't learned how to do it,
know?
right?
Yes, yes, very true, very true. But there is this skepticism and this fear that, we were talking about fear a minute ago. It's not just the fear of the uncertainty, but it's also this fear of, does it consume everything? And I listen to my kids. My kids are so not into AI, and I'm like, yes, but they don't have the same experiences we've had. And, you know, to your point about even how we design things and how we create space, like, I don't know about you, but like most of my career, I put in the 65, 70, 80 hour work weeks. And AI provides opportunity to not have to do that as much, right? Where you can have more harmony in your life if it's designed that way.
That's right. That's right. If we learn how to sit still. You know how many people can't sit still for 5 minutes?
Yes. Well, we have an epidemic of ADHD, neurodivergent issues that, or we're, doom scrolling all the time, like just being. And that's a little bit why I brought up my friend as well, because sure, she's on social media as well, but she's also balancing that time with being in tune and connected to our earth, to people, to humans, which is where we started this conversation today. How do we be better leaders in connecting more on a human level?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that. I get asked a lot, what leadership skills or what are we going to need, in the next decade, and I have things that I think about, but what I hadn't thought about until this conversation is discipline. And I think that's a new one for me, actually, because as I was listening to you and I was reflecting on myself, and as I leverage it and we use it in our work, it's easy for me to produce more, which means more can come on my plate,
Of course.
right? Because I can accomplish more with AI. But what would it take for me to have the discipline to leverage AI to keep my current workload and create space, right? And also, I think the discipline, um, I've been using this word thinking sovereignty,
Okay.
meaning maintaining our thinking sovereignty. It's really easy, and it's just the way the brain works. We're so efficient that anything that takes less effort, less time, less energy, we're going to do. Right. So when we say, I've been known for providing the answer, providing the expertise. Oh, look, AI can do that for me really quickly. I need to write this blog. I need to write this LinkedIn. AI can do that for me. It's easy. It's called an energy gradient. It's easier to do that. Over time, we lose our ability to think, our thinking sovereignty. Right. And if we don't have that friction, and there's been a lot of research that shows that with schooling and education, screen-based education, right? There's a more passiveness about that, and actually the ability to think and to be resilient, and even the IQ is like going down on average, right? And so I think the discipline to, I'm going to go ahead and write that blog on my own. I'm going to think through, I'm going to wrestle with it, I'm going to allow the friction, the effortful friction that I have to go through and suffer, and to get to that place, so that I do maintain my thinking sovereignty. But I hadn't thought about discipline until this conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we prompted that.
Wow. I've thought about mobilization, accountability, courage. Like I've thought about all these things, but not discipline. And I think that's going to be critical for us. Yeah.
Well, and I see and hear a lot of our young people. So I was mentioning my kids are very anti AI. And
Yeah.
what you were just talking about, that's one of the things that my daughter says all the time. She was like, if we let AI do all these things, we lose our critical thinking.
She's so
And
smart.
she is smart. And but what's fascinating is that's a term that I've used a long time. Like even when I've gone into universities and talk with students, I'm talking about those critical thinking skills because we have even before. I mean, AI has been around for a long time, but even before that, we were losing that ability and even how leaders communicate. I do a lot of coaching around this. Like they tell people what to do instead of getting people to think about what to do or how to do it. And so she's not wrong in that regard, but you're absolutely right that having that discipline around it becomes so important. It's also risk reward. We talk about how we want time. We want outside because when your brain has a chance to clear and you have space, that is when you're most innovative, most creative. And so that discipline of building that in becomes, I think, even more important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
So I know I have to kind of keep an eye on our time here, Kari. Boy, we could like go, we could go a lot of directions today. Okay, so you've coached lots of senior executives.
Mhm.
What are some of the mistakes that you see leaders making when they're introducing AI into the organizations?
Yeah, I think the first one is treating AI as a pure technology implementation, right? It's an identity transition. It also really impacts. So, one of the things we do in our consulting practice is we're always looking across what we call the leadership OS, and it's the way that strategy, culture, leadership, and structure come together, right? So, AI can shift structure, and when you shift any one of those things, they start to come out of coherence with each other.
Yes.
Not being clear, putting AI first instead of the strategy first, right? So you want AI to support your strategy, not AI implementation, and we'll find how it fits later, right? So I think doing it without thinking through the second, third order effects, like kind of that full picture executive level thinking. Another mistake is thinking that communication, this also happens with almost every big change effort. And kind of what you said a little bit, it's like thinking communication is mobilizing people. They're really different, right? So people need to see a future in which they understand it. They can see what's the purpose of this. They can see their part in it. They can see how they're going to make a contribution to it, right? So I think confusing communication with mobilization. I've also seen two ends of the spectrum where it's either, okay, everybody start using AI and it's just chaotic, right? Or the other side, which is nobody use it. We're going to figure it out on top.
Yeah.
When we figure it out, we will roll out what you can do and can't do. So, because we haven't yet figured out those governing structures, and everybody's figuring this out, but it's almost like an all or nothing.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of that, and we're everybody's going to deal with that at one degree or another, but finding kind of these iterative, experimental, let's try this, let's learn from it, let's iterate. So setting up a condition in which, we can safely try, iterate, or pull back or double down on. So not really doing the work ahead of time. Again, all change efforts being additive.
Mhm.
Add, not subtract.
Yeah.
Not being clear on, I think a lot of leaders don't understand how AI is designed and how humans are designed. And so we're starting to have AI do the things that humans are uniquely better at.
Mhm.
Versus really looking at, okay, here's our strategy, here's how we create value. How do we maximize that human intelligence? I think anything that happens in an organization is being amplified. So we've always had unique ways of suppressing the human intelligence.
Mhm.
And now, as we chase artificial intelligence, we're doing that even more.
Yes.
again, not leveraging that artificial intelligence to pull out of humans the best. Rather, it's like I get to produce less at work. It's like, these are just some. I mean, there's new ones every.
Those are fantastic. And the one that resonates the most with me is the aspect of, not looking at it in totality. So it almost that compartmentalization is even more disruptive. And so it's how do you bring people along the journey with you, bring their voices in to understand what's working, what's not working, and keeping that humanism very much alive, I think is so important when you're implementing any kind of change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and you also talked about purpose. So I do have to kind of wrap us up here, but I don't want to. But I'd love to end where your book begins, which is with purpose. So if AI changes what we do and who we are, what do you hope every leader remembers about their humanity, their influence, and their legacy to the world?
Well, I kind of want to turn that question back and say the answer's in the question.
Okay.
Is to remember that we are responsible for the human future. And we are responsible for that legacy, and to remember that responsibility, right?
Yeah. Love that. And you said something earlier that I think I really hope our audience captured is, who am I being? Like, that is so important. Who am I being in this evolution, in this life-altering time that we're in? Who am I being, and what's the impact I want to have?
Yeah,
So
I
thank
think
you for
we
sharing
haven't
that.
learned that enough. Yeah, thanks, Vicki.
Wow. Kari, thank you for joining me today. Great conversation. Thanks for the work you're doing. I know it's not easy, especially when we're influencing humans. It's not easy, but so important, and so important that we connect more than we ever have. So thank you for the hard work that you're doing. And where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you so much. So easy, KariZeller.com. KariZeller.com. That's an easy place to find me. They can find me on LinkedIn as well. I don't know when people will be listening to this episode, but Replaced, Answering the Call of Leadership in the Age of AI is coming out July 14th.
Nice.
They can find me there as well.
Awesome. Well, you heard that. And if you are listening in, I'm sure you can find that on Amazon, all the major bookstores. Grab the book, have a read. And if you have questions for Kari, reach out to her. Let her know what those questions are. And if this episode resonates with you, please do share it. Leave us a review. Let us know, what your thoughts are on the conversation today. And Kari, thank you again. I really appreciate you taking time. I know you're busy, especially with the launch of the book coming up just a week away, next week.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I am busy. It's a very vulnerable time. It's my word going out in the world.
Well, you got to celebrate. Make sure you take that time to celebrate, because everything that you've done for the last 2 decades is now all coming together that you're going to be able to share with the world in a much bigger way. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your platform with people like me. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. And audience, thank you for chiming in. We really appreciate you listening in to the episode today. And as always, we do have a gift for you. Be sure to go and check out our 2-part mini-series. One, we talk about habits. The other one, we actually talk about fear, which Kari and I have talked about today. So we have a little video and some prompts for you there that you can tap into. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Take care. Thank you for joining us for Will Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.